You're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Let's begin. Darn it, I thought that today was going to be the day that I didn't have to talk about whether or not Joe Biden was going to drop out. You know, I've said for the last couple of days, I don't like talking about it. I don't want to talk about it. I hate speculating and all that good stuff. And then you're probably saying to yourself right now or screaming at the screen saying, well, Rucker, it's your show. Why don't you just not talk about it? So the basis of the show, the intention here, I'm not a news show per se. I don't like just, here's the news for the day. I don't do that. I try to give perspectives on things that are happening. And I don't want to give the same perspective that everybody else is giving. And it's not because I want to be contrary. It's just like, okay, so this is important, but seems like these guys and these guys and these guys are already talking about it. So no need. I don't need to throw my voice in there for the sake of agreeing with everybody else. I try to highlight the things that perhaps other people aren't necessarily talking about. And in many cases, things that other people aren't necessarily seeing. And of course, there was a story that came out this morning that, it's, I thought, no, don't do it, Rucker. Don't do it. Don't. And I don't actually call myself Rucker. I don't actually talk to myself, but I'm not schizophrenic. But anyway, so I didn't want to do it, but then I thought, man, nobody's going to catch that. Or not nobody. I'm sure many of you catch it. I'm sure a lot of other people catch it, but at least our standard average conservative media show hosts, they're not going to talk about it in the proper terms. And by the time you're watching this, it could already be resolved, but I will say this, that I doubt it. I doubt that we're going to get a resolution to any of this anytime soon. I think that even the talking about it is enough of a distraction to take us away from the concept of asking the question, should Democrats or Republicans or both, should they be trying to get rid of Joe Biden and forget about the campaign? Should he even be in the White House? And then the question comes up, well, what is Kamala Harris going to do? Would she be any better? And there's all sorts of complications there. So, but with that said, okay, with that lead up, New York Times came out with a bombshell story this morning saying that Joe Biden is meeting with his friends and sending out memos or whatever that he's considering dropping out of the race. Now, I'm going to call BS. To be clear, I do think he's going to drop out. I think that that's part of the plan. But I know the New York Times. I know them very well. I've been studying them for years. I know between them, Washington Post, and a few others, it's not all of the left-wing corporate media that does this, but these guys, they generally do. They'll do what's called push reporting, I guess is the easiest way to put it. There's an actual term, but I forgot what it is. So we're gonna call it push reporting, similar to like a push poll. In other words, they're reporting something that's probably false. They know it's false, and that's okay because the intention here is to stir sentiment. The intention here is to get people thinking along the lines of, Joe's thinking about dropping out. Hope he does. They're saying that he's thinking about dropping out, or he's talking to people about dropping out in hopes that it will become, basically, the news will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, that he will hopefully somebody will talk sense into him. They desperately want him out of the way. They want somebody who they think can be Donald Trump, and they don't think that Joe Biden can do that. So they're putting out these stories, and it's funny because there's a telltale sign. Okay, there's a telltale sign for scenarios like this. Generally speaking, especially if you have a bombshell story and you're making an accusation about somebody, basic journalistic principles is that you allow them X period of time. Some will say an hour, some will say a day. It's usually somewhere in between how much time you will give the subject of a story the opportunity to respond within the story before the story comes out. You don't, just bad journalism to hit people up. According to the Biden regime, they were only given 7 minutes. 7 minutes. They were told, hey, we're going to do a story about the memo that Joe Biden is sending out there, talking to some people, close allies and friends about whether or not he should drop out. They were given 7 minutes. That to me is just because it's not one of those things where, oh my gosh, we got to get the story out right now. They could have waited at least an hour. But no, they intentionally, in my humble opinion, got the story together, got their narrative that they wanted to push, narrative that's part of their agenda being to, number one, distract, number two, to get Biden out of there. They say, okay, we got a story that's going to, we're going to get the sentiment and the buzz going so that hopefully Again, it'll become a sort of a self-fulfilling news story, self-fulfilling prophecy. So, according to Fox News, who they're not much better than New York Times, but at least a little bit better, White House response to report Biden told ally he's weighing dropping out of the race. Biden reportedly told a key ally he knows he needs to prove he's up to the job or something to that effect. Skip ahead. Where to go? So it's funny, even Fox News buries it in paragraph 7. White House spokesman Andrew Bates disputed the report shortly after it was published. That claim is a quote from Bates. That claim is absolutely false. If the New York Times had provided us with more than 7 minutes to comment, we would have told them so. Interesting. Biden, who is 81, I'm not going to read any more of that. You get the idea. So I'm calling BS on the New York Times because they do this all the time. Okay, this is something that they do. I say all the time. They probably do it at least dozen, maybe somewhere between a dozen and 2 dozen times a year, as far as I can see. And I don't read the New York Times very often. When there's a blockbuster report, especially one that is either unverifiable, in this case, nobody's going to verify it, or if it's something that they can just reverse later, you'll see them report, make a bold statement, crazy statement about somebody doing something. And again, the intention here is to promote their agenda. They want the people, you and me, and well, not that we're going to vote for Joe Biden, but they want Democrats to be thinking along the lines of, number one, it sounds like he's ready to get out, and number two, let's hope he does. That's the psyop. Okay, that's how they operate. They know that these conversations that they're talking about aren't happening, except they push it anyway. And again, if this were real, I would imagine that they would have given the Biden-Harris regime, the campaign, or somebody on Team Biden, they would have given them more than a 7-minute opportunity to respond. Instead, they published a story without response, and the Biden regime has to go say, no, that's absolutely false, but at that point it doesn't matter because everybody else is already talking about, ooh, did you hear? Joe Biden's talking to his allies about dropping out. Maybe it's going to happen. It's really happening. It's really happening. Okay, somebody call Michelle. Somebody call Gavin. Somebody call Gretch. Old Gretch. Somebody call Kamala. Okay, so nobody's saying somebody needs to call Kamala. You get the idea. That's what I strongly believe is happening. Again, I want to be clear. I do think he's going to drop out. Okay, and I'm down to about a 60% chance. I'm 60-40. Okay. And every day that passes without him dropping out all the way up to the convention, I drop about 0.25%. So I'm not going to drop too much if he still does. But if about a week after the convention, if he still hasn't dropped out, then I'll say, you know what? I guess he's not dropping out. Until then, I still believe that there is a better than not chance that he will. But that doesn't matter. It's like I said, the reason that I don't want to talk about it is because, people want to argue about it as if that's just my perspective. And it's, just like you have your perspective. This isn't something where we need to debate it because it's all speculation anyway. Nobody knows for sure if he's going to drop out or not. Okay. Not Bill O'Reilly, not anybody. They might have seen something that leads them to believe it. And who knows? Perhaps I don't want to call this journalist over at the New York Times a liar. Maybe they really thought they saw a memo or were sent something that looks like a communication between Joe Biden and a particular ally. Or maybe they talked to somebody and that somebody's trying to urge Joe along. And maybe somebody's thinking along the lines of, well, Joe probably won't even remember whether or not he had this conversation with me. So let's pretend like he did. We'll see. We'll see. There's no point. I don't like talking about it because, like I said, it's pointless. There's no action item here. It's not like, okay, well, we think that he's going to drop out. So let's I don't know. Let's tell him to drop out. Again, the only action item is the same, whether you think he's going to drop out or not, and whether he does drop out or not. The same action item, in my humble opinion, remains, and that is to attack the Democrats. It's not about just attacking Joe Biden. If anything, obviously, I hope he stays. I want him to stay because he seems to be the weakest possible incumbent candidate in the history of incumbent candidates. He should be the easiest presidential incumbent of all time to beat, especially with somebody like Donald Trump. But you never know. You never know. So my thing is focus on the Democrat Party. Focus on the basically tagging the party, associating the party with all of the problems that currently the campaign still says, oh, it's Bidenomics. Oh, it's Joe's border crisis. It's Joe's this. It's Joe's that. We don't need to attach it to Joe. We need to attach it to the entirety of the party, because the entirety of the party is the problem. And it goes beyond just the Democrat Party. It also includes the rhino members of the Uniparty swamp. So we've got a lot bigger fish to fry, in my humble opinion, than just Joe Biden, which is why stays in, doesn't stay in, doesn't matter. Mission's the same. Okay, mission is still the same from an electoral perspective. Let's go after the Democrats all that we can. Because here's the thing. There's a report this morning also, and I don't have it pulled up, or I'd bring it up on the screen. There was a report this morning from Axios that's saying a lot of the bigger donors for Democrats, a lot of them are starting to pull back on Joe and really putting focus and money, more importantly, into down ballot campaigns. The reason being is they figure, hey, if Joe's going to stay, we're probably going to lose the White House. If Joe doesn't stay and somebody else is brought in, depending upon who it is, we're probably still going to lose the White House. Okay? There's too many challenges there. But we need to hedge our bets. We need to try to have a buffer zone or protection against Orange Man bad, right? So let's go ahead and start winning those lower focus on winning the lower elections, even local elections. Soros has always had the strategy, George Soros, and I'm assuming Alex will have the same strategy, of going after local DAs, stuff like that. It's been wildly effective. Okay, if you live in a city with a leftist DA, you've seen the changes that have happened just over the last few years. Well, now they have a reason. While Republicans are still going to focus on making sure that Trump not just wins, but wins in a landslide, Democrats, it appears at least a lot of them, are going to focus on the down ballot races. So as a result, I believe that we should too. And we don't have to pull away our support or minimize our support of Trump. We just need to focus the attacks, whether it's on social media, articles, shows, anything. We need to focus our attacks on the Democrat Party. I've said it a billion times. I'll probably say it a billion times more until it actually happens. And who knows if it ever will. We do have what I believe to be I don't want to say a fun show, because there's some good news, bad news, weird stuff, not weird stuff. It's a very interesting show ahead, because this is we're starting to get into a little bit of my element. I've got a lot of videos to play too. This is going to be fun for sure. And we're only doing 1 hour today. So if you're watching on RVM News, Rumble channel, then this is the show. If you're watching on Frank's Speech, no need to go back to RVM, because there was no first hour, because this is the first hour. I'm just playing them both. Or I'm playing it on both. And of course, Sprilly TV, same thing there. We will not be on Worldview Tube today. The team over there is on 4th of July break. So no show until next Monday. It does appear we do have our first live guest coming on next week, Ben Swan. Journalist Ben Swan will be joining us next Wednesday, it appears. So that's good stuff. Quick shout out to my wonderful friends and partners over at Genesis Gold Group. If you are concerned about the economy, if you look at your retirement, look at your IRA, your 401ks, your government retirement accounts, whatever, and you're wondering, wow, it's just not doesn't feel like it's safe being in the various markets that could crash, being so tied to the dollar, so tied to all of these various things that you feel could crash. Perhaps it's time to start looking into a self-directed IRA that is backed by physical precious metals. And the company that you should be talking to is a faith-driven company, my good friends over at Genesis Gold Group. Be sure to go to rumblegold.com. That's rumblegold.com. You'll see a nice little a video there with my good friend Mike Lindell talking about Genesis, talking to Genesis, and good stuff there. Again, faith-driven, biblically driven. It's Genesis from the Bible. So that's why you don't hear me offering any of those things like $5,000 in free silver or anything like that, because that, my friends, is disingenuous. It's not real. You're still paying for the silver. They're not really giving you $10,000 in free silver in exchange for a $299 processing fee. The math doesn't add up. Drop the hopium. Just deal with real numbers. Go to rumblegold.com and see what Genesis Gold Group can do for you today. So let me see here. Can I squeeze in one more? I'm going to squeeze in one more. This is an article that's been sitting in my box for now, over 2 weeks. I've been wanting to talk about it desperately. I've been wanting to talk about it because obviously it's being that I am very much in favor of meat. If you couldn't tell, I've got the physique of a definite meat eater, and I don't shave off the fat. But perhaps more importantly, I am also a huge fan of American-made real meat, not the lab-grown stuff, not bugs or anything like that. I like the real stuff. Well, this article by Zach Jewell over at Daily Wire highlights that the World Economic Forum article, or a World Economic Forum article, calls for reinventing the global food systems, and it praises animal products. This has been okay. It really has been. And we are going to, after the break, we're going to be talking further about the World Economic Forum and the plans of the globalists and all that good stuff. But I wanted to highlight this article in particular first because it does, it does it. It does exactly what, says exactly what they're trying to do. According to the article, the World Economic Forum published an article on Thursday, and again, this is like mid-June when this came out, published an article on Thursday calling for reinvention of the global food supply and praising alternative proteins such as animal-free, are made by animal-free products. The WEF is an international, you know who the WEF is, yada, yada, yada. In Thursday's article titled Feeding the Future, Why Renovation and Reinvention Are Key to Saving Our Food Systems, WEF New Frontiers of Nutritional Project Fellow Juliana Weltman-Gleiser laments, that was a mouthful, pun intended, laments the greenhouse gas emissions caused by food production and warns of a 60% increase in food demand when the worldwide population hits 10 billion, which the math doesn't add up there, let's just be clear. But they don't actually believe in math or science or anything. It's all about feeling. So if they want to feel like we'll have a 60% higher food demand by increasing the population by approximately 44%, what is it? Not even that much. So be it, Math be damned, right? Gleiser wrote, many of the ways we grow, manufacture, and consume food are causing a dual crisis of human and environmental health, and the complexity will only intensify. No, it will not. Let's be clear about that. Technology is getting there. Technology is making things easier, including farming in many cases. I'm not talking about technologies in, jabs or vaccines or GMOs or anything like that. I'm talking about the technology that allows for easier farming, okay? Easier tilling of the ground, just gardening, farming, homesteading, ranching, whatever it is, all the various ways that we can naturally produce food. We don't have to just pull out a rake and a hoe and go at it anymore, okay? We have the ability to, the science, the true science. I'm not talking about like genetic modification here. I'm talking about just basic physical, water the ground more easily, get, all that good stuff. I'm not talking about DARPA making it rain or whatever. I'm talking about the real stuff. That stuff is working, and that stuff is good. And so, no, we shouldn't have a more of a strain. It should not be harder for us in 2024 to generate food than it was in 2020 or 2015 or 1987 or anything like that. It should be getting easier. And it would be if they would just get out of the way. Okay, I talk to farmers and ranchers all the time. Innovations continue to happen pretty much every year or two. They happen more rapidly than they used to. And generally speaking, there are, of course, the bad ones, the chemical, we'll call them chemical or genetic innovations that obviously we avoid wholeheartedly. I'm a big, huge fan of regenerative farming, of organic food, truly organic food, not just food that Bill Gates slapped a organic label on. I'm talking about the real stuff. I'm a big fan of localized, right? But, and well, it's not really even a but, they don't want that. They want control over the food. This is why they want us to eat bugs. This is why they want us to eat lab-grown meat. That's why they want us to eat their crap, and they want to be able to control what that crap is, unfortunately. I'm going to leave a link to this article because it's relative. That's not that long. But oh, wait, hold on. Oh, yeah, okay. No, it's not terribly long, but it is. I need to move on. So I'll leave the link to it. You can continue to read. I finally get to it after 2.5 weeks, and then I cut it short. But for good reason, because we have a lot more stuff to cover. So I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to go ahead and play the ad for my beef company. Since we're talking about animal-free products, I'm going to offer you, we're solutions-oriented. I'm going to offer you, I'm going to offer you right now today what you're about to see, which is obviously my Prepper Beef Company. But I want you to keep something in mind before you watch that. Today and tomorrow only, okay, July 3rd and July 4th, if you use, wait for it, if you use promo code FREEDOM35, yes, 35. If you use promo code FREEDOM35 today and tomorrow only, then you will get 35% off. This is a flash sale. We have two sales every year, okay? Veterans Day and Memorial Day. You can tell that we're a veteran-owned company. We celebrate those two as far as for specials on the cattle. On a whim, we decided, you know what? America needs savings right now. America needs beef right now. So let's have, celebrate 4th of July. Let's have a 2-day sale, and yeah, and we'll go for it from there. So again, go to the website, and whatever promo code I mentioned on there, don't use that promo code. Instead, use FREEDOM35, one word, no space in between. The word freedom, the number's 35, and you'll get 35% off for 2 days only. So take a break. Be right back. I like being a person who focuses on solutions. I don't always have the answers, but I try to at least know 1 or 2 or 5 different ways that we can address an issue. If we're fighting oppression, we know that we must protest. We know that we must be ready to, if necessary, to revolt. If we're fighting against a government that is just doing the wrong things, well, let's figure out who the right people are and get them into office. Those are the types of solutions that just about anybody can offer. If anybody who's out there doing a conservative or alternative news show, they can at least tell you, go vote and go protest, right? But one thing that we have that's unique about us is that we do actually get involved directly with one particular problem, that's long-term survival, preparedness. Just in case, hey, let's say we can't stop the destruction of the United States. Let's say we can't prevent the next cyber attack. Let's say we can't prevent an invasion, God forbid, or anything like that. Then at least we should be able to bug in appropriately, and that's why I'm very proud to be one of the owners of a company that services Americans specifically with long-term storage beef. We're talking about the good stuff. It's not beef crumbles or beef chunks. We're talking about ribeye, New York strip, tenderloin, sirloin. We're talking about freeze-dried. It's cooked sous vide, so then freeze-dried for a 25-year shelf life. So you're good until 2049 if you buy enough of this stuff. All American beef. We don't import anything. It's born, raised, slaughtered, and then packaged and shipped out from Texas. Doesn't ever leave Texas until it's in a bag heading towards your house. So that's my contribution, so to speak. I know it's not much. I know that there's other people that are fighting really hard, getting into heavy activism, fighting the lawfare side for conservatives and all that good stuff. This is what we've got. I mean, it's different, but hopefully we fulfill a need that you have. Be sure to use promo code JDR. That'll get you the maximum discount at any given time. And as of right now, as you're watching this, that maximum discount is 25% off. So, yeah, stock up. Stock up now. Stock up as much as you possibly can. Get high-quality beef by going to preparewithbeef.com. That's preparewithbeef.com. A viral video started making its rounds yesterday on TikTok and X and all the various places of a lady who was just absolutely in tears. She just left a hospital, and there at the hospital, she was told by nurses, basically, masks don't work. And at first, when I was watching the video, first I'm thinking, oh, okay, so she's going to come to the realization that she's been lied to by CNN and Fox News and everybody else for the last 4 or 5 years. But no, as it turns out, she's mad at the nurses. She's, instead of coming to the conclusion that maybe they know what they're talking about, instead of realizing that they didn't used to wear masks before COVID, so why are they wearing masks now? Instead of thinking, that kind of makes sense, you're right. Instead, she comes to the conclusion that she's a victim and nobody cares and everybody hates her. At least these people. It's like, oh my gosh, well, you'll see. Just watch this.
So I'm trying to paint a picture of the conversation that I just had at infusion. I just got back to my car. And the nurse threw a bonus mask into my purse from the sterile kit. And I said, oh, hey, thank you. I can always use more of those. And she's like, yeah, we can use less of them. And I was like, oh, I know. We're all really tired of wearing masks. I get it. And she goes, no, they're pointless. And I said, what? I was like, even in an oncology and hematology infusion center, you feel that masks are pointless? And she was like, yeah, we didn't wear them before COVID. I was like, even with neutropenic patients, even with patients that have no white count, no immunity, no nothing, you still feel that masks are completely irrelevant. She was like, yeah. And I was like, wow. And then, like, 3 other nurses popped over, and she asked them, she's like, what do you guys think about masks? Are they irrelevant at this point, even in oncology? And they were like, I mean, we're pretty sick of it. Like, I don't really think we need to be doing it. We weren't doing it before COVID. And again, I was like, even with neutropenic patients, you don't feel that masking is necessary. Even with accessing ports, you don't feel that masking is necessary. And I just had 3 to 4 grown women who are nurses look at me and tell me no. And, like, I'm not an oncology patient, but I am immunocompromised. And I, quite frankly, have never looked at fellow human beings like that and, like, known exactly where I stood in some kind of a hierarchy, and know that, like, at the end of the day, I don't matter. And if I don't matter, so many people on this oncology floor don't matter. And if this is one clinic in Washington State, we're supposed to matter. I'm so floored that conversation even just happened. So floored. I have a lot of unpacking I need to do for that one, for sure.
Yeah, she was floored by this conversation. She thinks her conclusion was that they're saying that she doesn't matter, when in reality the conclusion should be, hey, face masks don't actually work. We weren't wearing them before, even in front of immunocompromised people. They just don't work unless you're going to put yourself in like a hermetic bubble of some sort, or completely mask. They just don't work. And we've demonstrated this. My good friend Dr. Ted Noel, he did this demonstration of, hey, let's see how much the masks actually block. And he used like some vaping pens or whatever, where the particles are about the same size or whatever. I don't know. He's a scientist. I'm not. He's a doctor. I'm not. But he basically demonstrated on a viral video a few years back that hey, masks, they're like placebos. They make you think that they work, but they don't. And this lady's obviously been indoctrinated, heavily brainwashed into thinking that if people aren't masked, then that's what's going to get her sick. And there's a lot of people like that. What's that? Taylor Lorenz at WAPO. She's full blown, immunocompromised, and man, everybody's got to be masked around her. They really do think, instead of listening to these professionals and taking note of it, it's important that they told her that before COVID, they'd never gotten masked up, not like this. Okay? It's so, I mean, even with that information, her conclusion is that they think she doesn't matter. That basically she's saying that they're trying to kill her, when in reality what they're saying is, look, lady, this isn't, the masks they're ineffective at protecting the person wearing it or the person talking to the person wearing it. Okay? They just don't work. And we've demonstrated this. We've seen this time and again. Okay? I mean, you can put on maybe one of those full-blown gas masks that have those filters. Maybe they work. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But the masks have never, ever been about protecting people. The masks have always been about control. My good friend Matthew Burke over at thelibertydaily.com, he likes to call them slave masks. There's a reason that he calls them that. Because they are. I've got to admit, I'm a little concerned, a little scared, a little alarm bells, a couple of them ringing in the back of my head following the announcement that the judge in Trump's, what I consider to be corrupt and inaccurate hush money conviction, the judge very, very willingly allowed the date of his his sentencing hearing to be pushed back, and the district attorney who opposes pretty much everything. I mean, he opposes literally everything that the defense tries to do or say. He was just like, hey, not opposed here. Why is that? So in the hush money conviction, Trump was supposed to be sentenced on July 11th. Of course, on Monday we had the Supreme Court ruling that says that he has absolute immunity while performing official acts under the Constitution. Okay, great. So given this new information, it seems that some of the evidence that was used against him in the hush money trial might not have been evidence that might have been inadmissible. So that's why it does make sense that they would push back the sentencing hearing in light of this new information. Okay, well, we have to ask ourselves, and I think this is where everybody's taking it at face value. They're saying, "Oh, I guess Judge Merchan and Alvin Bragg, the district attorney, they just said, oh, well, it's the right thing to do, so let's do it." I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure, especially when I look at the dates. There's an article over at, for the details, let's go to those first. There's an article over at thenationalpulse.com by William Upton. Trump's sentencing has been delayed. Here's the new date. According to the article, the July 11th sentencing of former President Donald J. Trump is being delayed until September 18 after two U.S. Supreme Court decisions. In a letter sent to Judge Juan Merchan on Tuesday, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg said his office was not opposed to a motion by attorneys for the former president asking to delay the sentencing hearing. Again, he opposes literally everything. If they say whatever, he's going to oppose it. And this, all of a sudden, this very important thing he's not going to oppose, a little bit of an alarm bell there, but we'll see. Trump's legal team asked the judge late last night for leave until July 10 to file a motion to set aside the verdict based on the Supreme Court's ruling in Trump versus the United States. According to the High Court, official communications between a president and government officials pertaining to official acts cannot be used as evidence against them in a criminal trial. This would effectively rule some of the evidence presented by Bragg in the New York trial inadmissible. And this is Bragg's statement. Although we believe defendant's arguments to be without merit, we do not oppose his request for leave to file and his putative request to adjourn sentencing pending determination of his motion. We respectfully request a deadline of July 24th, 2 weeks after the defendant's requested deadline, to file and serve a response. Okay? Good enough, but it's not going to be necessary because Judge Merchan responded late Tuesday that former President Trump's sentencing hearing would be moved to September 18th. Now let's do some math here. September 18th. That's approximately 6 weeks before the election. If the judge were to, let's say, and I don't know what he's thinking here, but if the judge, let's say he was planning on doing a 30-day incarceration for President Trump. Let's say that on September 18th he decides to have the check in by October 1st. Okay, Trump's going to go to jail October 1st. He could literally lose the entire month of campaigning. Now, to be clear, I would say that if that were to happen, that would be a slam dunk guarantee, 100% chance, 99% chance. Don't want to go to 100, but 99% chance that Trump would then, of course, win the election as a result. There's a good chance that he will win. At least he will get the most votes now. But that might even push it so far that if there is any crazy things happening with voter fraud or anything like that, that he would be able to even overcome that. That's how much of a landslide it would be, in my humble opinion. But don't forget, Democrats don't necessarily think logically. Okay, they think emotionally. And emotionally, they might think to themselves in the back of their minds or even in the front of their minds, or maybe they don't have any minds at all like Joe Biden, but they might be thinking, you know what, let's just, whatever it takes to slam dunk, throw him in jail, whatever it takes, no matter what. I mean, they might look at this as a win. So you might literally have both sides thinking, oh, this is great. This is going to help us in the election. Who's right? I would say we are. But that doesn't mean, oh, I hope that he goes to jail. I don't. I do not want President Trump to go to jail, especially for these trumped up charges. This conviction that was absolutely positively rigged and false, in my humble opinion. I'm not an attorney or a constitutional lawyer, but everything that I've seen says, hey, and everybody I've heard talk about it, they're like, yeah, this shouldn't have been a thing. This shouldn't have been a thing. But hey, it is what it is. He has this odd conviction. Now he's going to get sentenced, but he's going to get sentenced later. And still, like I said, it still rings alarm bells. I think they're plotting something. So we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. We'll just leave it at that. I was actually going to skip this next story, but I'm not, because it's not a fun story, but it's important because I think a lot of people, maybe some of you, but for sure some of your friends, especially if they're normies or leftists or anything like that, they're going to either be familiar with or have heard of or maybe inadvertently be using NewsGuard. And I've had long-standing fights with NewsGuard for years. Okay, they contact me. It seems like every time I start a website, within 2 or 3 months, they're contacting me about, well, so we've got, they send me these list of questions, and I always ignore them, and I always get slapped. Literally every single one of my sites is slapped with the NewsGuard untrustworthy site, and it bugs me to death. I get on all those fact checker sites, and I always look at my stuff, and it's funny because a lot of times they'll call things out that just whatever, just aren't true. Well, they and for those who don't know, they are funded fully by the globalists. This is as radical left wing, full blown Marxist funding for this. It's as bad as it can possibly get, and yet they're considered to be the unbiased version. I was talking, I think it was Todd. Pretty sure it was Todd Starnes, great journalist, former Fox News guy who went solo, and he's been killing it ever since. Todd Starnes got into it with them, and to demonstrate. I hope it really was him. I'd like to say it was either him or John Solomon, and it could have been both. But between the two of them, at least one of those two, um, and forgive me, whoever I'm getting it wrong about, but one of those two, and maybe both of them, had gotten into it because they wanted to demonstrate and prove, look, we are not, when we report news, we report it as news. When I have an opinion, I report it as my opinion, and all the news that we report is factual, correct. They went through great pains to basically get the untrustworthy source label off their site, and I can understand that, okay? I don't go through those pains because no matter what I say or do, they'll always consider, because I don't, let's just let's just say that the topics that I pick, generally speaking, don't fall under the category of that would, how do I say this? They'll never let me pass. Okay, NewsGuard's got some wizard with a staff that says, "You shall not pass," or something like that. At least for me. So this article over at reclaimthenet.org, fantastic site. They don't do nearly enough articles. I wish they did. The more the articles they do, the better, because they've got some great writers and they pick some excellent topics. In this case, it is JD Rankovic, who's one of their most prolific writers. Article: NewsGuard co-founder advocates banning anonymous social media posts, bad, and enabling lawsuits against tech firms for false content. Oh, you thought that the Ministry of Truth was dead and gone. As with so many of these things, they just take it from a different angle. In this case, the trying to stifle dissent against the accepted, the normal narrative, or whatever you want to call it. That they're taking that from multiple angles, and in this case, now they're going after social media through a fact checker, a trusted. A source checker is, I guess, what they are. They don't check facts per se. They check sources. Is this a good source? I don't even know what it looks like. I've never had it on my browser. So, and if you do, I would recommend taking it off. Okay. Anyway, according to the article, NewsGuard co-founder and co-CEO Steve Brill, perfect name, has published a book, The Death of Truth, but he's not taking any responsibility. On the contrary. That's great. You gotta love JD Rankovic. Yes, he is, I would say, the NewsGuard in general. The vast majority of fact checkers out there, and you could say just corporate media as a whole, has participated fully in killing truth, taking truth, which was already generally dead for the last 8 years or so, 10 years. Take the truth, at least what media reports, which is already dead, and just beat it like a dead horse. But even worse than that, I mean, beat it to a pulp. We're talking like, if you've ever seen the movie Drive, just think about the elevator scene. That's what they're trying to do to the truth. Anyway, back to the article. Namely, Brill's apolitical misinformation rating system for news sites, as NewsGuard is promoted to customers, is often blasted and currently investigated by Congress for possible First Amendment violations as yet another tool to suppress online speech. But corporate media sing its praises and presenting him as a media maven. I don't like that word. A censorship maven, more like it, critics would say. And I'm one of those, even though I wouldn't use the word maven. And while getting his book promoted, Brill managed to add his name to the steadily growing list of governments, NGOs, and associated figures who are attacking online anonymity. And unfortunately, you got some people on the, the quote-unquote freedom side, like Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson, that's one area, I agree with him 75% of the time. Sometimes he's way off, but I say most of the time he's pretty spot on, and he's very articulate and oftentimes entertaining in the way that he presents his spot on remarks. But he's also, unfortunately, very articulate in going down the wrong path, and eliminating online anonymity is one of those. The guy, he uses his real name just as I do. He doesn't like anonymous trolls. He doesn't think that that's the right way that communication should be happening online, and I vehemently disagree. But whatever. So, whoopsie. Oh gosh, I don't like those pop-up things. Anyway, along with end-to-end encryption, the ability to interact anonymously is a cornerstone of the internet. But these two key elements that ensure not only privacy but also the security of individuals, companies, etc., have become the two main targets for authoritarian, labeled as such or acting in that spirit, governments. Brill's contribution, a set of practical solutions that includes, quote, banning anonymous posting online and funding media literacy programs. Nope, that's a whole other show. We'll talk about that some other day. Bottom line is this, is that you can't, I think anybody who's been online long enough and who interacts with other people, or if you have a blog or a show or just even a social media presence, you've probably met people and talked to people or been attacked by people who are hideous, people who maybe take things way too far, and you might be using your real name and they're not, and that might seem unfair. Number one, if they have the right to do it, so do you. You can become anonymous if you would like to, whether it's on social media or anywhere else. You don't have to. I mean, there's very few situations in the course of, free internet conversation, I'm saying, like in comments and places like that. There are very few scenarios where you're just forced to use your real name, your real identity. And if you don't like that, then don't use those sources. I'm not a big fan of forcing it. I will always use my name, okay? You won't find anything like what was Mitt Romney's Pierre Delecto. I don't go down that road. I just say, hey, here's me. This is me. Talk to me. Here's my name. Here's where you can reach me. You can reach me directly. Go to jdrucker.com/talk, and those communications come directly to me, as they have been a lot lately. But yeah, if you don't want to, if you want to be anonymous, be anonymous. If you don't want to be anonymous, if you want to be upfront, or if you have reasons to, maybe you're promoting yourself, maybe you want to become an influencer or whatever, or maybe, you're just not shy about what you say. Well, for whatever reason, if you want to use your name, great. If you don't want to use your name, great. Okay? I mean, that's how the internet is. That's how it should always be. And you have very powerful people out there trying to change that. And that, my friends, would be disastrous. I'm going to take one more break. And when we get back, I've got, we're going to be talking about Agenda 2030, but I shouldn't say that. We're going to be talking about 2030. And I think I have a bit of information that you probably never heard anywhere else. It's biblical. It's kind of conspiratorial. That's the wrong word for it, but you'll get the idea. Either way, it's pretty damn cool. So stay tuned. There are a few companies out there that can help you to get long-term storage meds. It's something that they don't talk about nearly enough, I don't think. I know that obviously you and my audience, you are preparedness-minded, survival-minded. You have, whether you're a full-blown prepper or you're just, let's keep a few supplies just in case, you fall into the category of at least wanting to be self-sufficient, at the very least. That's why my good friends over at Jace are amazing. You can always use promo code Rucker10 to get $10 off your order. Go to jdrucker.com/meds. That's jdrucker.com/meds, and let's pull them up actually. So their play is a strong one. They offer emergency medications, 28 medications such as ivermectin, antibiotics, anti-malaria meds, just in case you're ever going to Africa, I guess, EpiPens, and more. They also have prescription supplies, and you get all this stuff through telehealth. So it's not like you got to go to your doctor and get it checked out and stuff like this. They offer these things through the mail. You get it mailed to you. It's awesome. Just good stuff. So again, check it out. See if there's something there that you need. I do strongly recommend, just in case you never know when the pharmaceutical supply chain is going to go under or over or whatever. You never know when your pharmacies are just not going to be open, or getting to the pharmacy is tough because there's roving bands of leftists, Antifa or whoever, because they get so mad that Trump is reelected that all of a sudden they're like, oh no, burn it all down, and then you just can't go get your meds. Get them. I mean, chronic stuff. You got diabetes, cancer. They have options for you. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I don't know what you need, but at the very least, check it out. There's a partial list of infections treated with their life-saving medications. They've got their daily, backup prescription supplies. If there's ever time to get a backup prescription supply, now is the time. So jdrucker.com/meds, MEDS, jdrucker.com/meds, and use promo code Rucker10 at checkout. So let's play this video real quick. I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to talk about it thoroughly. I might have to talk about it again tomorrow, which will be perfect for the 4th of July. Yes. But we'll talk about it, or I'll play the video, and then we'll talk at least a little bit about it. So watch this. And this, by the way, there's obviously a very British tilt to this, but imagine that this is all about America as well, because what he's saying about England and the British government, same thing here, same thing.
There's something we're not being told about our upcoming elections in the UK. Our two major parties have been compromised and are undemocratically transitioning us away from shareholder capitalism to another political system. This short story begins with Klaus Schwab, the executive chairman of the World Economic Forum.
We are working closely together with governments from around the world, including all G20 countries.
His exclusive elite members, called stakeholders, include the heads of all G20 countries, from the US and UK to communist countries like China.
What we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, is that we penetrate the cabinets.
After penetrating our cabinets, Schwab and his stakeholders have enacted a 10-year transition to another political system, which Schwab designed.
I pioneered the stakeholder concept.
Called stakeholder capitalism.
Stakeholder capitalism is finally becoming mainstream.
This single global authoritarian system provides the stakeholders unprecedented control over our companies and lives.
The Chinese model is certainly a very attractive model for quite a number of countries.
Promoted on the cover of Klaus Schwab's book, stakeholder capitalism's slogan is propagated by the heads of all G20 countries and other powerful stakeholders.
People and planet, people and planet.
In the UK, Prime Minister and stakeholder Rishi Sunak has already made stakeholder capitalism's credit score mandatory for large companies.
We're announcing the UK's intention to mandate climate disclosures.
Sunak's opposition, Keir Starmer, is also a World Economic Forum stakeholder. It doesn't matter which party we vote for, both have a
stakeholder responsibility in accelerating the transition
to stakeholder capitalism by enacting its Marxist and tyrannical policies.
This is the best time for leaders to work jointly for the world to become more inclusive, more sustainable.
If you've wondered what's causing these strange events, it's because we're witnessing a cultural revolution, a social movement manufactured by tyrants.
Create a stronger inclusiveness.
To drive a shift from the bottom up to a more inclusive political system.
You have been promoting the stakeholder concept.
The era will be inclusive for them.
Other powerful UK stakeholders include Boris Johnson, Matt Hancock and Sadiq Khan, as well as the head of the BBC and our media regulator, Ofcom. They've been indoctrinating us to believe narratives about them acquiring totalitarian authority are dangerous right-wing conspiracy theories.
What can you do if someone you know has fallen down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole?
As well as manipulating us with propaganda, the stakeholders have been cancelling and censoring anyone who shares the truth.
Under new online safety laws, conversation and discourse is being shut down.
To discover how stakeholder capitalism works, Schwab's full plan for transitioning us, and what we can do about it, watch my feature documentary series, Stakeholder Communism, for free at yellow.forum.
Yeah, I really wish I could pull off that hair. The messy look, that's great stuff. I'm not sure who Richard Jeffs is. I'm going to be researching him. I just saw this morning, by the way. That's the only reason why I haven't been able to do much research. And I did at least visit yellow.forum. Seems pretty cool. It does. I'll admit it seems pretty cool. So I will be doing more research. I'm going to end up probably playing that whole video again tomorrow and talking in more depth, because here's the thing. When they say, you know, you got to get ready by 2030. A lot of the conspiracy theorists, anti-globalists, they say 2030 is the big date. You got to get ready. My perspective is 2030 is sort of like the midpoint date. It's like things are already going to be rolling. That's like they're setting that as a goal, and in order to achieve their goals by 2030, that means that they're going to have to get started. Well, they're already started, but that means they're going to have to really take things down as extraordinarily ugly path and really start taking control, whether it's through the pandemic treaty, the Great Reset, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, whatever it is, whatever they rename it between now and then, they're already in the process of starting, and things are going to go very far south, much worse than they are even today. And I say that it's going to. I'm not saying that it's a foregone conclusion, but they're going to try to make things to take more control and make things go south between now and then. If I had to pick a year, I'd say it's probably going to be around 2026-ish. Could be 2025. Could be now. I mean, it could be tomorrow that we really start seeing things, the crap proverbially hitting the fan. Okay, so just be secure, be ready, be as ready as you can be. Read your Bibles, get your family prepared, become as self-sufficient as possible, become as ungovernable as possible. There's very simple things. They're not easy, but they're simple, if that makes any sense. So we'll be talking about that a lot more thoroughly for tomorrow's show. But I did want to, because I promised I was going to give you a little tidbit of neat information. So here it is. This is something that I had discovered years ago, and I thought, man, and I did a short little video about it. It went semi-viral. It got, I think, around 200,000, 300,000 views on YouTube back in the days when I used to do YouTube. But anyway, so if you start from, let's go back in history. You start from 970 BC, okay? 970 BC, that's the year that King David of Israel died, okay? He died in 970 BC. If you were to assume, as most biblical historians and scholars assume, that Jesus was born sometime between 4 BC and 1 BC, okay? That's generally considered his year of birth. And you assume that it's probably, we'll say, 3 BC or 4 BC, something like that. And assume that he lived, at least as a human, he lived for 33 years. It's very possible that you take from 970 BC, you add exactly 1,000 years to the day. It's possible, not confirmed, but it's possible that that's the year that Jesus died and was resurrected. Okay? Exactly 1,000 years after David's death. Now, if those two things align, which again, I'm not saying that they do, but it's very possible based upon the dates, they fit. Now you fast forward 2,000 years. And for those who don't have a calculator, that puts us at 2030. Regardless of the Jesus component, seems very interesting, I think, to me. But regardless of the Jesus component, it is still, no matter what, historically, we've demonstrated and proven that exactly 3,000 years after King David died is 2030. Okay? Is that a coincidence? Do we still believe in any coincidences at all? I sure don't. I don't. So, is there something there? I don't know. Sort of blew my mind when I noticed it, and maybe you're thinking it's a nothing burger. Maybe you're thinking it's just a coincidence. I don't believe so. But we are going to be talking a lot more about 2030 and stuff. Like I said, I'm just sick of talking about Biden. Is Biden going to stay? Is he going to go? I just don't like talking about it at all anymore. So, hopefully, nothing happens tonight or tomorrow so that I won't have to talk about it. Lord willing, I will be back tomorrow, back very soon at least, with another episode. But in the meantime, y'all stay strong, stay safe, and God bless.